we were the anti-nuclear capital of the world. I was an autistic kid. My father was a drafted United States Marine, an incredible man. I come from an incredible family. My uncle stood on Omaha Beach on D-Day. I grew up on a huge ranch out by the lake. He was a beautiful, incredible person. He was at Pendleton, combat ready, and they were human guinea pig. They were marched into the trenches in Nevada. They're called atomic veterans. He nearly died at the blast. Between 1951 and 1968, we had 300 open-air tests. Well, as different scientists started to write about this, Wallace Stegner was at the University of Utah at the time. I got to know him. Edward Abbey was hanging around there. I got to know him. I got to know all these environmentalists, and I was an environmentalist, and it was a passionate, intense subject matter there.
All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. Bloomgate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. Bloomgate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. They'll be calling you a radical. May God have mercy on all of your souls.
Nuclear power was evolving. We were promised, oh, this can't happen.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got UCY pulled up, and we should be live now, according to Skype.
Okay. All right. Sorry, you guys.
Just seconds.
Okay.
We still got dead air recording.
Wow.
You're live.
Oh, here we go. Sorry about that. Get this, 2 times in a row. We just have technical difficulties out of the blue. When Snowden comes out just the other day and releases a new memo that certain words are said on internet radio shows, certain words that are done, whatever, that the NSA has a giant apparatus of trying to twist, block, rats and trolls on Balco. Oh yes, very, very real. Very, very real. Not my words, Snowden's words. So I would like to say this to the NSA. Their big apparatus right here where I'm at on the mighty Wasatch. Let me tell you, everybody who works for the NSA, as you participate as your great Uncle Toms, and you're supporting the very people that are killing you, you can get cancer, leukemia, your children, your family. This is the Queen's apparatus. The NSA is nothing more than an apparatus to prevent us from protecting you, the very employees who work for us. So you want to be Uncle Tom? Go for it. Go for it. You want to be just like the media wants to be Uncle Tom? Go read Uncle Tom. Read the book. Oh, what was he talking about? If you don't think nuclear fallout, the greatest cover-up in human history, bar none, is Fukushima. Now you think about this. You think about the greatest cover-up before that was Chernobyl. Fukushima's even passing Chernobyl. No-fly zone. The arresting people in Japan for even mentioning. You can't even send an email. Now you think about that. Media here. One other thing that I'll jump right to the pending news that's out there. We have 3 nuclear nightmares going on. One, of course, Carlsbad. There are RadNet detection devices, and this is being widely reported, that are picking up plutonium as far as 20 miles away. Now, of course, they're going to come out, the Queen's Academia Armies, this professor from Texas Tech who doesn't know an isotope from a spent fuel rod. Morons. Academia propped up, just like the marine biologists in California. They don't study the ocean because they don't know how. Names and titles. They are detecting plutonium as far as 20 miles away. Carlsbad obviously has an event going on. Now, if there's an event going on, the reports I'm getting is ceiling collapsed and smashed some plutonium barrels in there. Oh, that's no big deal. Oh, yes, it is a big deal. It's an active repository. Now, if they seal it up, will that stop it? Possibly. But they're not going to seal it up. Are you kidding? This is the repository because we block check them out. It's going on. Now, what can you do? Call Udall. Call Udall. And when you call Udall, Senator Udall down there, and I don't care where you live. I mean, the jet stream moves left to right. I tried to explain that to the morons at San Onofre in San Diego in the hearing. Oh, this is our issue here in San Clemente. And said, no, it's not your issue. It's a bigger issue downwind. It's where it rains the next day. Just like Fukushima was the biggest issue right here where I'm standing on the Wasatch View. Why? Because we had 350 open-air tests in Nevada. We all know what downwinders were. We have heavy plutonium all over the Wasatch View. Everybody knows that. I mean, it's factual. Background level, they call it. We have more than anywhere on Earth, besides maybe Chernobyl now. It's the Belarus and Ukraine. But we got hammered because it rained here. And then I get leukemia 7 months later. A lot of people did. A lot of people died. A lot of people died from Fukushima right here on the Wasatch. Second pending big, giant story that's going on in the Ukraine, right there in Chernobyl's backyard. A lot of people don't know this. The revolution that's taking place, there's a nuclear reactor there. The nuclear reactor was overtaking a few weeks ago. Now you think about that. It's being used as a pawn. Oh, absolutely. Spent fuel in there? Oh, yeah, spent fuel in every one of them on Earth. The danger is gigantic. You post anything about that reactor on the internet, on Facebook or whatever, you know how long it'll stay up? Boom, it immediately goes down. I'm serious. I mean, look it up. Well, try to look it up. You know, think about that. Where Chernobyl happened, you think that would be the end of all nuclear? Wouldn't you think that? The Belarus and Ukraine, the mass murder of their populace, would you think that'd be the end? No, because Gorbachev died. Putin is one of the Queen's puppets. He's the new czar. Pussy Riot gets that. They understand what he is. He's in the club. Think about this, and I want you to all think about this very hard. Foxconn. Operation Foxconn. Rupert Murdoch, the Queen, who was absolutely sponsored 100% by the Queen, the feudalism. I mean, this isn't New World Order. This is Old World Order. This is epic neo-ultra feudalism. Operation Foxconn, Fox News, was propped up by the Queen, the House of Windsor, just like Putin, just like all of them. It's the same system that existed in 1913, 14, 15, 16. One family rules. They're in the family. They let them in the family. So they're using it as a pawn, as a tool. They're trying to restructure, force the Ukraine into their colony. The United States is nothing more than a colony of the House of Windsor. Everything we fought for is over. Everything. Now, today on the show, we're going to really talk a lot about Fukushima. We're going to talk a lot about Einstein. We're going to talk a lot about Robert Oppenheimer. A lot. We're going to really dive into the dynamic of the Manhattan Project gone amok. The evolution, how, where, why we are where we are today, and why this is so much even more dangerous than it was in 1913, in 1774, as society cannot reboot because of nuclearism. The nuclear cartel completely out of control. The chickens have come home to roost, Bobby. Now, as I said, think about this. Fox spends all day, every day, 24/7, Obama bashing. That's all they do. Obama, Democratic Party bashing. Why would they not start talking about the cover-up of Fukushima, which will absolutely destroy the Obama administration? And if the Democrats don't pull their head out of their ass, Barbara Boxer has tried, and come to the grips that this is going to destroy their party completely, the cover-up of Fukushima will absolutely 100% destroy the Obama administration to the 10th power, because he is the puppet of the nuclear cartel. Not my words, Hillary's, which, ironically, Hillary Westinghouse Rodham, she's a puppet of them, too. The Democrats want to be puppets of the nuclearism, as we are elitists in San Francisco. We are American exceptionalists. I love it. Go to San Francisco anymore. You know, the females down there. I was involved with this girl from San Francisco. So-called elitists, ultra neoliberalists. You know, she really thought she was something. She was a solid 7. She was a solid. You know, come to Utah. I used to tell her all the time, come to Utah. You wouldn't even make a 7. These girls here are beautiful. That's one thing about here. Oh my. Beautiful females. But they're false bravado on there because, I bought a house and it increased 7 times. Why is not Foxconn attacking this? I'll tell you why. Because Rupert Murdoch, the epic neo-ultra feudalistic system, they're not going to happen. That is their greatest. That's the top of the heap. Nuclearism, the Queen's uranium mine. Oh no, don't you dare talk about that. Because they're the same party, they're the same system. It is the 0.1% versus class war. Oh yeah, I love how Fox talks about class war. Rupert Murdoch has waged the biggest class war in human history. Bar none. The greatest redistribution of wealth upwards in human history has taken place since 1979 to present in this country. Now, let's go all the way back. Let's talk about Einstein himself. Let's talk about Robert Oppenheimer. Let's talk about the evolution of nuclearism and how we got to this funneled up socioeconomic nightmare. And it is a nightmare. You can go in denial all you want about it. The outsourcing of the jobs to a slave economy. Oh, they'll buy our goods. Yeah, those Chinese that are making 37 cents a day, they got a lot of money to consume. They got a money. And so the young population, hey, go serve each other coffee, serve each other freaking hamburgers, because that's all it is. The service-based economy, which is just political cover for the word for the usury-based economy. Now, my word, science fiction economics, that's mine. And by the way, Risch has tried to steal it. And if he tries again, I'm going to sue that punk ass, because he is the Queen's soldier. Left, right, the Fed completely hijacked by the Queen's Army. Alan Greenspan, a member of the Queen's cartel, the nuclearism cartel. It's the same group. Elitists, you can call them whatever, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. Those philosophies have always existed from the time of man. People have always wanted to control wealth via bloodline. That's what royals do. That's what feudalism is. That's what the shoguns in Japan did. They're doing it again. We always had people that fought back and stood up. Einstein fought back. Now let's go all the way back. Okay. Here's Albert Einstein, German boy. Why did he leave Germany at 15 years old? To avoid the draft. Goes to Bern, Switzerland, by the way, which my great-great-grandfather, the famous Mormon. The fourth is my grandpa. That's his hometown. My mother's bloodlines go right to Bern, Switzerland. My father's to northern Denmark. Okay, so we go back. He flees to avoid the draft in Germany. He's nobody. Nobody even knows who he is. He's nobody. He's a dropout. He's a flunky. But his father died, and his father, right before his death, said he was very disappointed with his son and felt that he was a grotesque failure as his offspring. That's Einstein's dad. Now, let's put this in context with Einstein as far as we have created what he is, this magnificent, brilliant genius, blah, blah, blah. Yes, in a lot of ways he did. His imagination really did change the world. But as a person, as a human being, flawed beyond flawed. Come on, he was married to his own first cousin. Disturbing. As a father, F. Absolutely F. Yeah, he changed the world. Oh boy. But he had one quality that was incredible in him. He was a pacifist. He was anti-war when we know what the Germans ended up being. So here he is in Bern, writing his papers, and it took a couple people to recognize him. Max, the famous quantum physicist, before they were even called quantum physicists, looked at his paper and says, maybe this lunatic's onto something that's radical. And this is crazy what he's writing about. He's flying in the face of all these Galileo. He's following the face of Darwin. All of them. So he takes a chance on him, props him up. He's in Germany when the war breaks out. He's trying to prove his theory of relativity. Here's Campbell from California has come all the way to Russia. Here's the young astrologer who's set up in Russia. When Black Hand kills the Austrian. War breaks out. Right while they're trying to get the eclipse in Russia. It breaks out. They're stranded there. The young astrologer that Einstein talked into going and doing his work, he's put in freaking prison in freaking Russia. They declared war. Come on. Campbell has to leave all his stuff and flees back to California. Think about Campbell up there on that ridge in California, sitting up there with his, we're talking in, what was that? 1912, 1911, 1913, 14. He was even there before then. So, German, he's led in the club. All the great German scientists are gathered together. Most of them Jews? Not most, a lot of them are Jewish. Some of the so-called Jewish greatest ones have converted to Christianity. Yeah. So they come out, and you can look it up, Manifesto 93. They're working feverishly on all kinds of different, breaking down all kinds of different scientific, basic, fundamental foundations to the core. the atom, the molecule, all the people, they didn't even really understand it, but they knew chemicals. They knew chemicals. They knew chemicals like no other. And they knew that they could kill people with chemicals. Well, they thought they could. But there was an argument, and a giant argument went inside. Is it right to do it, or is it wrong to do it? You know, that's the intellectual fight. Okay, do we develop this, and if we do have it, is it moral or immoral to use it? Nerve gas, mustard gas. They all go in. So Einstein himself, the pacifist that he is, the anti-war, the beautiful spirit that he had, that part of him, which was incredible, which I think is the reason it freed him to have the creative mind, to come up with this creative idea that light curves. He writes his own paper, his own manifesto. This is a huge society saying, no, we have it. You can't use it. 4 people signed on. So did they use it? Oh, you damn right they used it. You ain't a kidding they used it. You know, he stood right there on the field. Einstein's best friend. Einstein was appalled. Oh boy, did it work. Oh boy, they were drowning in their own freaking phlegm from their lungs. Oh boy, did it work. Over and over and over it was working. Einstein was so grotesquely appalled, it shattered him to the core. Now you think about that dynamic as we go forward with this with Oppenheimer, with the whole nuclear cartels that evolved. This basically comes down. All this is philosophical from clear back to Jesus Christ, clear back before Jesus Christ. A philosophy between, I call it good and evil, but it's really a philosophy between usury and not usury. You know, the German philosophy was this, yes, it will help us win the war easily and it will end the war quickly, fastly, which we obviously know that did not. I can really dive into the dynamic of World War II in this town, my town, right there in Ogden, Utah. Boy, did they have a player in it. So, as it goes forward, Einstein, like so many, they got to get out of Europe. Europe's out of control. Europe is, he's in Berlin. Berlin, the great cosmopolitan city, the great, incredible city, gone, over, done. War, 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 war. They've all got to get out. So it goes forward, World War I goes forward. They're using nerve gas. They're using biological weapons over and over and over and over and over. Again, an elitist philosophy that we're better than you. Think about this. These are people that live right. That'd be like freaking Utah fighting Nevada. That'd be like, we saw that at the Mason-Dixon line. that people that lived, across a river from each other, killing each other. Which the Franco dynamic in Spain falls into it too. You think about that. Brother killing brother. Oh yeah, absolutely. Just like here. And the Civil War was devastating to this country. Devastating. So we skip forward to World War I evolves into World War II. America won't get involved. A bunch of playboys, a bunch of air suckers and air crawlers just, going along having a happy life. These grand natural resources, this big, broad new place, this incredible place. Yeah, of course they wouldn't have got it. Why would they? The Japanese did attack Pearl Harbor. Let's make no mistake. Again, the system that existed in Japan for hundreds and hundreds of years mirrored the system in there. It was a feudal system. Still the shoguns. An emperor 1% elitist system was in Japan. The Japanese people had no clue what was even going on. None. But that evil, I'm better than you emperor, which exists today. It's obvious. The cover-up of Fukushima proves it exists still today. Japan's a colony of the Queen, just like we are. The feudal system. So we go forward. Here comes Robert Oppenheimer. Now, Robert Oppenheimer, let's remember, his parents loved New Mexico. They really loved New Mexico. Why would you? Anybody have you ever been there? And think about this in those days. Wow. And I really believe that Robert Oppenheimer, if it wasn't, they grabbed a hold of him, girls found him, put him up on the pedestal, and then jerked the chair out from underneath me. I'm going to tie this into the evil head of the snake, Cal Berkeley. Cal Berkeley is the head of the snake. Again, San Francisco, the head of the snake. We are elitists. You're elite because you got a raising real estate value? Think about the fact that the science fiction economics let the interest rate flow to a natural level, the interest rate should be way up there. Think about that. You know what that would do to the California economy if we had a normal interest rate? The entire economy is hinged on those false bravado real estate values that are obscene and ridiculous. Oh, the bottom is going to come out one day, and when it comes out, it's going to be one ugly gig. It can't exist forever. So we go back to Oppenheimer's in the mountains of New Mexico. I mean, get on his horse as a boy and go for days and days. He was a romantic. I tie him a lot to Everett Ruiz, Everett Ruiz here, but more in the literal context. He was there. So he's a romantic. He's out in the wilderness. I really think he would have been a great environmentalist. I mean, a writer, a poet, whatever. There was just one of these people that was born with this giant intellect. I think it was developed by his horse rides in the mountains of New Mexico for days at a time. His parents didn't allow him to be born outdoors. I go back to Russell Means. And I think this is the way I think. I grew up on this beautiful, huge dynamic on this ranch, and I was allowed to be born outside the cage. He was allowed to be born. Now, my parents let me go, and I would roam. I'd roam on that Great Lake for days as a boy. I learned to be in symphony with the environment at a very, very young age. My parents just let me do it. My grandpa, whatever. Where you been for the last 2 days, boy? Oh, I've been down there watching the muskrats at the dance. I've been watching the blue herons and the tundra swans on the delta. Oh, okay, that's fine. Don't worry about me. Russell Means says you take a wolf, he's born outside in the wilderness. You capture the wolf, you put him in the cage. He will eat, chew on the bars, go crazy, try to break through the bars. He won't eat, he'll spin in that cage until he's dead. You take a wolf, have him born inside the cage. That wolf will live comfortably inside that cage. Human beings are born inside the cage. Very few. Back in those days, especially in the western United States, like Albert, they were not born inside the cage. I mean, this is big, wide open, broad, and his mind was developed in a beautiful, artistic, incredible way. I mean, he spoke 6 languages by the time he was 18 years old. He was a genius. Beyond a genius, his IQ break. And not only that, he was dynamic enough because of his path in New Mexico. So, Groves takes a chance. Vegan Groves are completely on the opposite of idealistic areas. I always go back to Oppenheimer when he was teaching at a very young age. And his student says, you would learn more in a week than you would for 10 years in another program. His teaching ability was like no other. I mean, he had one woman in his class. She took his class 3 years in a row just because he learned so much knowledge from him. He wouldn't let her in the 4th year, so she went on a hunger strike. That's how much she knew. This brilliant mind, this brilliant teaching ability, this brilliant ideas. Groves takes a chance on him. Groves is completely the opposite. He would be a neoconservative, drum beater, kill. So here comes along Oppenheimer, takes a chance on him. They prop him up. Are we still on, Dan? My phone bleeping and going crazy. I hope. But anyway, so they prop him up. We've got the Manhattan Project goes crazy. Now, Einstein said this himself. Dr. Einstein. He says this. Einstein's living in Long Island at the time. He's a celebrity beyond a celebrity by now. And Campbell from California, who went and did the testing. Now remember this, when Campbell did his testing in Washington, the state of Washington, where the eclipse was, his equipment wasn't so great because he had to leave it in Russia when he was there before. He said, nope, it's a failure. His theory is wrong. He presented that as wrong, but right as he's presented, Eddington. Now, Eddington was another pacifist. He was a Quaker. He didn't believe in war. That's how him and Einstein found each other. Because they both had the same philosophy. They were anti-war, one German, one English, working together. Eddington's like, no, he didn't even get very good pictures in Africa, but he's like, oh no, I think that he's got it. He's got it. So again, by the time the next eclipse comes around, they're in Australia, and Campbell ain't going to miss it this time. He ain't going to get it wrong this time. And he gets it right and proves it. And so Einstein becomes this incredible celebrity. So he's you know, the greatest celebrity on earth. Somebody comes to him and says, hey, the Germans, I think, have the technology to build this atomic bomb. So he writes a letter to Roosevelt. Well, Roosevelt's going to listen to him. Oh, yeah, anybody on Earth's going to listen to him. This is the guy that broke down freaking 1,000 years of science, changed the world. He says, hey, I think they're building this bomb. We need to do it too, which he said he came to regret the biggest mistake of his life. Roosevelt listened to him. The Manhattan Project was born. The sums of money that was thrown at it was so gargantuous. Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Cal Berkeley was really born on Balco. Berkeley, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Hanford, of course, we know there, Washington. There's another one right out here. That's where my supposing 311 is going to be. Wendover, Nevada, Utah, on the border, where they know they flew out of. Much more than just a hangar where they flew out. Much more, and I know that dynamic. So you fall back to Einstein with the nerve gas. Now, where do we get rid of the nerve gas? Here in Utah, and so much of it ties back here. So the nerve gas, we've had it for how long? Over 100 years? Are we on the air, Dan? This thing's beeping, going crazy.
Yes, Kevin.
What technical? I'm blown away at this, to be honest with you. What's happened the last 2 times on my show? I mean, outrageous. So, anyway, they throw incredible sums of money at the freaking man. I mean, grotesque sums of money. They pop Oppenheimer up there. He makes the decision of New Mexico because that's his home. That's his place. All these, they set it up there. It's sad that it was set up there. Trinity annihilated some of the greatest landscape on the face of the earth. It is so grotesque, and it ties back to Carlsbad. That's why Carlsbad's there. I mean, the Manhattan Project has gone amok. It never stopped. It never stopped, even though Gorbachev and Reagan signed it. Now, let's tie this in quickly here. So here's Oppenheimer, this brilliant genius. They're putting this baby together. They think, and let's be real, Oppenheimer's Jewish, his father. You know, so a lot of these scientists, they know what's going on in Germany. Now, Oppenheimer said himself, he says, I never got involved with politics. I never even thought about any of it. Never. He was like Hamilton. He was more into reading about philosophy, reading about Greek tragedies, reading, you know, where do you think the word came? He knew the Hindu philosophies. He was so well read. He was a genius. He didn't even bother himself with contemporary. He hated contemporary. He didn't want to. But he knew what was going on. Finally, somebody made him aware of what was going on in Germany, which was evil. The extinction of a people based on religious philosophy is so obscene. I don't care what your philosophies are. They were scared that the Germans were getting it. Now we know, factually, that the Germans were never even close. They were never close. But there was another player, a Stanford guy, Teller. There's the devil, not Oppenheimer. Teller is the devil. Teller is the devil. Berkeley are devils. The Cal Berkeley apparatus there are pure, the head of the snake on power. Lawrence Livermore, the head of the snake. The cover-up of Fukushima. Fukushima is the greatest catastrophe in world history, bar none. Bar none. You know, and they've been able to cover it up. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It shows you the 1% feudal system and the control they have through academia. And how do they do to it? They do it philosophically to you. So back to Oppenheimer. They're building it up in New Mexico. They're building it up. The sums of money, every freaking great mind in the world is there. They're doing it. They're going crazy. They're in a race. You know, they get it. They come up with it. But remember this, and never forget this. The Germans had surrendered before before the Trinity test. July 16th, 1945. So the fight is going on inside, including, Frank Oppenheimer, his brother, all of them. There's an argument going on, do we even use it now? Now remember the Japanese and their shogun, their feudalized system, which is even stronger than any European. I mean, the emperor is an evil, scummy piece. Do not forget the Bataan death marches and what they did to those men. Evil, 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 beyond evil, which, we spilled it over into Asians. That's how Korea evolved. That's how Nam Korea, because of the hatred for the yellow man. When it was really the emperor. People had no clue what was going on. Oppenheimer wanted to drop a scare bomb. A scare bomb, not over the populace. He was overrode. Truman had no choice. You think Truman was going to be able to back out of that thing? There's no way, Truman. No president on earth. The problem is, he says it pretty well, that the reason we dropped it, there wasn't anybody strong enough to stand up because everybody was a coward. Now, what society is now, we're cowards on Balco. Every president since John Kennedy's a coward. I mean, we're all cowards. We think that we're on the winning team with our equity in our home. So they dropped the bomb. The test bomb, Trinity. Holy cow, it's even stronger than they thought. They had bets. Now remember this, Enrico Fermi. That's the name of the plants up there, which everybody says they were going to go to. On my poster, none of them went up there. The phony frauds, the keyboard activists who say they're one thing and they're another. They had bets. What you could see them betting. They're scientists. How big is it going to be? Let's have a little pool. Fermi says, I'm going to bet $1 that we kill everybody in New Mexico. That's the type of minds. Now go back to the nerve gas in Germany. Go back there. Manifesto 93. Again, it comes down to philosophy between good and evil, between usury or not. And this whole country has bought into the usury. It's okay to use slaves in China. It's okay to execute people and run down the NFL field with hair extensions. It's a philosophy. It's the same philosophy. It's okay. 99% of the so-called Christian community in the United States believe that it was okay to enslave them. We're doing them a favor, that black guy, those people. We're doing those people a favor by housing them and feeding them. When Alexander Hamilton, no, again, it comes down to a simple philosophy between good and evil, usury or not usury. Nerve gas or not nerve gas. Einstein said no nerve gas. The rest of them said, hell yeah, use it. So we've had nerve gas for a while. We don't use it. We take, just because they split the atom, just because we have technology, does that mean you use it? No. We don't use freaking chemical warfare. Nobody does. Nobody. The false bullshit in Syria, which I don't think that happened. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it did. I don't know. We can't get any truth. That's the problem. It's just like Fukushima. I reported that there's between 800 and 4,000 dead. These are coming from very accurate reports from me. Remember this, I was getting so many emails in the early days out of Fukushima. Remember when I reported that the head of the Fukushima 50 was going to die and that I had got an email that someone said, that he talked to his mom, that he's going to die of cancer and it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And everybody says, you're crazy, and went off the top. Remember the propaganda machine? Fukushima had not killed one person. And then, boom, he dies. I've been so accurate. My sources have been so accurate. My source in Japan tells me, which the professor that I was talking to in an intense way, I even did his radio show a few times in Tokyo. He's in prison, by the way. But I get stuff leaked to me. They're saying that there's up to 4,000 people of the Fukushima, and there's hundreds of thousands of workers that have been over there. Now, we know that the mob has been running. They're using homeless. They're making social disclosures. They're writing their family a check when they die. They're saying they are, well, most of them are not even paying. Same thing happened in Russia and Chernobyl. They used a draft on those 500,000 men, which the men of Chernobyl are all dead. It's Alice's beautiful line is this. The worst thing that come out of that meltdown of Chernobyl was not plutonium or cesium, it was lies. That's what's happened to Fukushima. The lies are killing you. So they dropped the mock-up in 45. So the debate, do we use it on Japan? They won't surrender. Remember how many men were being killed on Okinawa? His hands were tied. They had to drop it, but how do they drop it? Oppenheimer's saying, drop it over an unpopulated place and scare the emperor. Scare and say, look what we have. So the debate is whether do we share this technology with Stalin. Now remember, we got propaganda as boys and kids growing up in the 50s, 60s, 70s. All we heard, those Russians are bad, the Cold War 10.0. But remember, the Russians lost 27 million men in World War II. 27 million! 27 million men. All the heavy lifting, all the hard work? Oh yeah. Remember, Stalin and FDR became kind of friends. They pushed, Churchill was the one they kept pushing out. You know, Churchill knew what he was up to. He worked for Scotland Yard. He used to put people away that never did anything all the time. So, share it with Stalin and let's use it. Share it, and we'll figure out a way. Oh no, we can't share it with them. We're going to be the new imperialistic elitists. We're going to take right up where the British left off. That was the military idealism inside, so they didn't share it. So, they drop it. Oppenheimer's brother's own war. Why did we drop 2? Well, the emperor finally, after his country's gone, they finally give up. Well, he gives up. He didn't care how many of his own people he was carrying. He could give a rat's ass. And again, the Japanese soldiers, a lot of them bought the Kool-Aid and went in just like we do here. Just like the police force, the NSA, they're buying the Kool-Aid, supporting the very people that kill the Uncle Toms. The military-industrialized complex, the military-industrialized police force, the Foxconn people that buy into this and support it, same thing happened. That's how fascism was born. That's how it happened in Germany. That's how it happened in every dynamic there ever was. So, they drop it. It's born. The nuclear thing's on. So they won't share it with Russia. So Russia's all, okay, fuckers. Oh, yeah, you don't think we can come up? Watch this. Sakharov, the Tsar bomb, 100 megatons. He backs it down to 50 megatons just at the last minute. We recorded it as an earthquake here in the United States. That thing, and everybody in the United States, oh my God. It was on. The freaking bomb race between the United States and Russia is on. Boom, boom, boom. 350 open-air tests in Nevada right here. My father, human guinea pig in Nevada. So, Eugene McCarthy, they're communists. So, here is Oppenheimer, considered the greatest genius in the country, maybe even more than Einstein at the time. Einstein anti-bomb. He becomes anti-bomb, but there's a guy named Teller. He wants to do these hydrogen blasts, show them Russians in the Bikini Atolls. He's an evil, evil bastard. You know, clear up to Star Wars with Reagan. He was the guy advising Reagan. Clear all the way to that creepy, I wonder how he likes hell. Oppenheimer saying, no, I'm no bombs, no bombs. I'm anti-bomb. No bomb, no bomb, no bomb, no bomb. No. And remember when they did the test in New Mexico? There was rumors that they thought maybe it would burn the atmosphere out of the world and end humanity. They did it anyway. It wasn't Oppenheimer who made the choice to drop it. Yeah, he built it. He ran the show. The military-industrialized complex, the girls in his army, the military, that idealism, the same idealism that Manifesto 93 existed was, again, philosophy, good versus evil. That's who dropped it. Oppenheimer was anti-bomb. Teller was pro. So they started the Bikini Atoll test down there. My God, they vaporized islands down there. Just kept going. He was a pro. He was developing nuclear weapons. Star Wars were nuclear weapons. Clear to his death, that old evil. And so the debate raged at the university level, which universities where PhDs were always done out in the field. The PhD of Einstein was not done by peer review in academia in a classroom. No, they were out in the street. That's where we'll meet. So the debate was happening at Berkeley. They had guys like John Goffman who were on the other side. So they promote Oppenheimer up. Well, Teller doesn't like Oppenheimer. He's anti-bomb. The military-industrial, they don't like Oppenheimer, so they label him a communist. Now remember, his wife, Franco, it goes back again. It goes back again to Europe. It goes back. She was in that experience. Her husband was killed in that bloody, ugly, ugly civil. When we were kids, Franco is still alive. Franco is still alive. That dynamic spilled. So here we are. Oppenheimer's anti-bomb. So Hal Berkeley has the Robert Oppenheimer. They promote him and stand up. I emailed her, the woman who's head of it, and I said, how do you like being the nuclear cartel's horse? We know John Holdren. John Holdren from Cal Berkeley was handed the keys inside the Situation Room on day 3. Gregory Jacko, who was head of the NRC, who was put there by Harry Reid, a Mormon, ties from here, to block Yucca Mountain, the National Repository. That's why we have the secret one in New Mexico that evolved out of the Manhattan Project. All this keeps evolving. It's the Manhattan Project. Megan Rice sitting in a prison cell in Tennessee because she knows this. She's a brilliant genius. Martin Luther King, hardcore anti-nuclear. John Kennedy, hardcore anti-nuclear. Bobby Kennedy, hard anti-nuclear. Robert Oppenheimer, hardcore anti-nuclear. Sokolov, hardcore anti, the guy who dropped the Tsar bomb. He won a Nobel Peace Prize, not like Barack Obama's Nobel Prize. No, he really earned his. The Nobel. By the way, Einstein goes back. He promised his Nobel Prize. He was so arrogant with himself, and so it wasn't arrogance, confidence with himself, because he knew he was going to get one at some point. His first wife, and he married his own cousin, you do know. But his first wife, the quantum physicist herself, was raising the 2 boys, and in the divorce, he promised her if he ever wins a Nobel, he'd give her the money. And eventually he did win it, and he did give her the money. Barack Obama's prize, he needs to give it back. Boy, did they dilute their cause. No credibility, just like Berkeley, no credibility. They put up Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer hated Cal Berkeley with a deep-rooted passion. They labeled him a communist, Eugene McCarthy, and Cal Berkeley made a decision through the Lawrence Livermore Lab and through their money. They are the ones, and I could prove it, that made the decision to take the Pendleton Marines, the Hollywood Marines, my dad one of them, drafted, march them, not the support crews, the 60,000, which they killed all of them, the Army 60,000, the 40,000 Marines, combat ready for drafted Marines, march them into the trenches, blast them, cut their freaking tonsils out, guinea pig them like rats. All died, and now I have leukemia. They did it to unborn children. The decision was made at Berkeley. They pulled Oppenheimer's security clearance. They pulled his funding. They pulled everything. He hated him. They killed him. They put him up on a table, put him up on this perch, and says, hey, look at you. Anybody who was anybody would listen to him speak anywhere. He was the genius of which, rightfully so, that he was, but he was anti-bomb. They pulled the table. They put a noose around his neck and pulled the table out from underneath him. And yet Berkeley has the balls to sit and propaganda him. They make me sick, academia. They did the same thing to Goffman. Goffman told you, here's how they work. 1090. They will feed you 10% of the nuclear truth out there, and by the time you got a lot, it'll be the new norm. Cancer, death, cancer, the new norm. John Goffman. Look what they did to him in San Francisco. Elitist, my ass. What the fuck's elite about you? Nothing. Oh, I got a house I paid. It went up 7 times in equity? Okay, what's your role in life? Oh, my house, I bought a house that went up 7 times in equity? Oh, what's your role in life? Oh, I bought a house that went up 7 times. Fuck you. You make me sick. Berkeley is evil, pure evil, so tell her. The most evil man in human history. The devil. The evangelicals beating the drums to freaking spray phosphorus on their own men. The Mormons doing the same. I honestly believe this in my soul. Philosophical way, you could say it's, use Satan versus God, whatever philosophy you want, good versus evil, I call it. When I was a boy, we were taught that, evil will masquerade itself as good, and it will trick you into thinking it's good. And I believe that's what the evangelicals have turned into. I believe, all religion across, Mormons, all of them. I believe they're evil masking as good, and that's what's going on. That's what Teller was. Teller, bomb, all these bombs is he. Oppenheimer was the opposite. Einstein was the opposite. The nerve gas is still out here. I used to do work out there in the nerve gas unit. What I would go through to get in there, to use your own equipment, great security out there, doing a great thing out there. They had a leak, killed a bunch of go shoot Indians. Oh yeah. There was a freelance reporter called on his bell and got the picture of the dead sheep out there, exposed it. Here in Utah, we were So hardcore to anti-nuclear. So it goes back to Stanford and Berkeley again. Wallace Stegner, my mentor, who raised my teaching style, Wallace Stegner showed me the way. Edward Abbey, he took a chance on it, showed me the way. Philosophy that Berkeley is funded by the billions, if not trillions of dollars. Oh, we have nanotechnology at Lawrence. I protested Lawrence on the 1000th day. I think it's ironic, and I call it TIMSHEL. Steinbeck, right there. All ties together. This is a basic root, and we completely went to the evil side. Completely. Gorbachev and Reagan. Now, you think about who's standing there when Gorbachev and Reagan are. Gorbachev says this. Okay, Ronnie, when they signed a non-proliferation contract to get rid of these things, let's go all the way. Let's just do it, Ronnie. The astrologer had told Ronnie she was anti-nuclear, and he believed in her. So he believed in Nancy. She was anti-nuclear. Let's do it. All the way. They grabbed his hands and stopped it. Teller stopped him from doing it. He says, well, okay, I'm going to say. They grabbed his arms. Wouldn't let him do it. So we did sign to get rid of them. A giant chunk of them in good faith, but we don't do that. Megan Rice is in jail. She's the protege of Martin Luther King. She is truly Dorothy Day. Our parents have put Dorothy Day in, and the most glaring part about this is not only this, Dorothy Day, Megan Rice, yeah, she knew she was going to go to jail, but they held her. No bail. Think about that. No due process, no bail. They held her in federal detention service for 9 months and tortured an 84-year-old man, the protege of Martin Luther King, the protege of Dorothy Day. You don't think we're evil? Without bail. As a sabotage terrorist. Really? The peace lovers? They're peace activists. They're pacifists. She's a pacifist. Dorothy Day, she's the greatest pacifist. Einstein, a pacifist. So we've become these aggressive regressives. A lot of people don't know, 1965. John Kennedy, 1963, July 26th, comes out against the military machine. He stood up against them because he knew Rachel Carson's thesis. He stood up against them. You don't think one person can make a difference? You don't know nothing about Rachel Carson. He stood up, and he signed the test ban treaty, that gave me probably cancer, that killed my father. It gave so many of you cancer. People die of leukemia, die of cancers in this country a year. Autoimmune deficiency diseases are from them open-air tests. And now Fukushima rages over the top of us. So after his death, Bobby, there's another hardcore. Every one of these hardcore anti-nuclears, look what happened to every one of them. Bobby goes to LBJ. They hated each other with a deep-rooted passion. He goes to him and he says, we got to get rid of all this shit. All of it. It's got to go. LBJ says, okay, let's call in Oppenheimer. Which everybody called in Oppenheimer. So Oppenheimer called into the White House. He comes in. Well, what do you think? Should we get rid of it all? Oppenheimer's words. You're 20 years late. Should have got rid of it then. So, he is the Lee Harvey. Oppenheimer's the evil is Teller. Oh yeah, he was a Stanford guy, which really is adopted into Berkeley. Cal Berkeley's the head of the snake. Think about who the new president of the university, think about who the new dean is. And remember when they pepper sprayed the kids? Remember this, the cop got more compensation than the kids got. That was the most evil thing, I think, in Occupy. Occupy did a lot of good, but look what they did to us, Occupy. So I stood in Washington Square the winter of 2010 with my post-ignorant signs and got involved with the people who became the early occupiers. We talked about my post-ignorance. I was trying to time it for the 100th anniversary of the Shirtwaist Fire, March 25th, 2011. As my socio-economic to Hamilton's grave, all these great people who got it. As those girls jumped to their death, they were locked in there. We have no oligarchs that can break out their daughters. J.P. Morgan's daughter broke ranks and supported those girls. Peggy Guggenheim broke ranks and supported. Mary Whitney. Oh, she's Vanderbilt. She broke ranks. She found freaking Pollock. She found de Kooning. She found these guys. Oh, yeah, they were WP artists. That's right. Berkeley used to at least have the debate there. They would throw the false equivalency, a little bit of a debate there on the anti-nuclear side. They gave Gottman a platform, but they did the same thing to him that they did to Oppenheimer. Teller took the field because evil beat out good. Evil has beat out good again. On Balco, they sprayed whitewash Dick Cheney evil. On his own man, George Bush, evil's little bitch on a leash. Teller overrode Reagan in so many ways. But we always had men who tried to stand up and fight back. We had none. Where are the great, great minds out there? Where are the great academians? Where are the great philosophers? Where are the great scientists who stand up and make the platform? They're not there because they were born in the cage. There's no men that were born outside the cage, like Oppenheimer in the mountains on his horseback. He learned to be in love with the environment and symphony. And where did that come from in Einstein? Dig into his childhood as a young boy. He was born outside the cage. His father let him be born. Was he a horrible father? Was he a disturbed individual in a lot of... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But it was his imagination who created that cliche of his. Imagination is stronger than... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Imagination is stronger than everything. Because they were born outside the cage. Russell Means, I'll end it like this. Russell Means said this. Again, the caged wolf, the caged wolf. The white Anglo-Saxon came to North America. DeSoto, back to Knoxville, Tennessee, looking for heaven. We had heaven. We had heaven. We had no disease. We had no jails. We had no locks. Wallace Stegner, my mentor, Stanford guy right there, head of the Sierra Club, who died in New Mexico in that car wreck because he refused to spend their money. If you think the Germans invented genocide, you know nothing about the American West. They were still executing Native Americans right at Diablo Canyon into the 40s. Man, woman, child. There were still stuffed Native Americans in the Metropolitan Museum in Manhattan into the 70s. Stuffed human beings. This is played out over and over in history, especially in this country, this great experiment. But we always had men that stood up. Is this country on the brink? Oh boy. 3/11/11, the greatest cover-up in human history. Ever. No fly zones. I mean, there's a no media source in the entire country. No, there's anything because there's no John Kennedys left. There's no Martin Luther Kings left. Martin Luther King knew he was going to be killed when the Reverend asked him to do this. He didn't want to do it, but he did it anyway. Bobby knew. I think Bobby, well, maybe Bobby didn't. It's sad. You know, CIA hits, I don't know. The Queen hits, I don't know. But it sure is ironic that John Kennedy flies in the face, gives that incredible, ends the open-air test bans. I call it the nuclear cartel. I really think history will play it out, and people will someday come to grips and realize that the nuclear cartel is the greatest, evilest thing in human history, bar none. Fukushima, the greatest catastrophe in human history. Head of the snake, John Holdren, is a eugenics guy. That's a fact. That's who was handed the keys in the Situation Room. The Navy wanted in. The Marines wanted in. They wouldn't let him in. He's running the show over there out of Berkeley to justify their funding. They're trillions and trillions of dollars. Look at us. We're elitists. We have the neocon lunatic right being run by a Rupert Murdoch that funnels to the feudal. We have the so-called, I'm an elitist on the left, which compromises the other 70% of us. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We'll be working on them. You know, we're organic. We're trying. Wendover, Nevada, 3/11/11, my symposium. Then back, we'll protest at Berkeley. Stan Tuna will continue this conversation on my YouTube site. Stan Tuna.